For minutes ago, the ground shifted under the British monarchy. In a move so sudden and so surgical that staff inside the Duchy offices are still scrambling for explanations, Prince William has stripped Queen Camilla of every remaining line of access to the Duchy's private accounts. Not reduced, not restricted, stripped, gone. The same accounts that once funded private travel, discretionary gifts, household extras, and quiet settlements that never appeared in the public reports. The same accounts Camilla had grown used to treating as an extension of her own influence. Sources close to the operation say the digital locks changed at 10:17 this morning. By 10:21, her personal assistants could no longer open the internal portals. By 10:25, the final confirmation emails had already been sent to the Duchy's private bankers. Camilla, according to one senior aide who spoke on condition of anonymity, was frozen. Not angry yet, not speaking, just frozen. This is not a rumor that has been circulating for weeks. This is not a slow leak. This is the kind of action that only happens when a decision has already been made at the highest level, and the only thing left is execution. Welcome to the video. If you are watching this within the first hour of upload, you are seeing the story while the shock is still fresh. Stay until the end, because the details that follow explain not only what William did, but why he chose this exact moment, and what it reveals about the real balance of power inside the royal household right now. Let's go back to the beginning of the morning so you understand the sequence. Prince William did not arrive at the Duchy offices with a large entourage. He came with a small, trusted team that has been working on the financial side of the estate for the better part of a year. These are not the people who appear in the public annual reports. These are the ones who handle the private ledgers, the discretionary funds, and the accounts that sit just outside the formal transparency requirements. According to two people familiar with the internal timeline, William had already reviewed the full set of access logs 3 days earlier. Those logs showed repeated late-night entry from devices linked to Camilla's private office. Nothing illegal on the surface. Nothing that would trigger an immediate public scandal. But the pattern was clear enough. Requests for transfers, approval for expenditures that sat in the gray area between official and personal, and a growing number of urgent authorizations that bypassed the usual multi-signatory process. William did not confront her. He did not send a formal letter. He simply gave the order. The Duchy of Cornwall, now under his direct control as Prince of Wales, has always operated with a degree of private latitude. That latitude is what allowed previous generations of the royal family to move money quietly when public scrutiny was inconvenient. Camilla, after years of marriage to King Charles, had become accustomed to a certain level of access. That access, sources say, had never been formally reviewed after Charles' succession. It simply continued by inertia. Until this morning. At 10:17, the access credentials tied to Camilla's office were deactivated. Not suspended pending review. Deactivated. The private banking portals that had recognized the team's logins for years suddenly returned authorization revoked. The internal Duchess system that managed discretionary payments locked her out of every relevant folder. Even the secondary viewing permissions that allowed her staff to see balances without initiating transfers were removed. One staff member described the moment the confirmation came through. It was like watching someone cut a wire. There was no warning message, just silence on the screen where the numbers used to be. Camilla was informed shortly afterwards. The message was delivered not by William in person, but through a formal note from the Duchess' private office. The language was cold and precise. Access to the private accounts of the Duchy has been withdrawn with immediate effect. All future requests relating to discretionary or private expenditure will be directed through the Prince of Wales's office. No explanation, no softening, no invitation to discuss. Those who saw her reaction in the first minute say she went completely still. Not the controlled stillness of a seasoned public figure absorbing bad news. The kind of stillness that comes when the ground under your feet has just moved and you are still calculating how far the drop is. Her private secretary attempted to make contact with William's team. The response was polite, brief, and final. The decision is operational and not open to negotiation at this time. To understand why this matters, you have to understand what those private accounts actually represented. The Duchy of Cornwall is not a simple property portfolio. It is a complex commercial entity that generates tens of millions in income every year. A portion of that income is formal and reported. Another portion has always sat in a more flexible category, funds that can be moved for the personal use of the Duke, or Duchess, of Cornwall, for household support that does not fit neatly into the public accounts, and for the kind of quiet financial maneuvering that has kept certain royal problems from becoming public crises. For years, Camilla's influence over parts of that discretionary machinery was real. It was never absolute, but it was significant. She could request. She could approve. She could, in certain circumstances, direct. That ability gave a leverage inside a household that has always run on a mixture of formal hierarchy and informal power. William's decision removed that leverage in a single stroke. This is not the first time William has tightened control. Since becoming Prince of Wales, he has steadily increased his direct oversight of the Duchy's commercial decisions, its environmental commitments, and its long-term strategy. What changed this morning is that he moved from strategic oversight to personal lockout. He did not simply review the accounts. He cut Camilla out of them. People close to the situation point to several possible triggers. First, the timing. The royal household has been under heightened internal pressure for months. Questions about expenditure, about the separation of public and private money, and about the long-term sustainability of certain lifestyles have been circulating at senior levels. William, sources say, has grown increasingly impatient with any arrangement that leaves residual influence in hands he does not fully trust. Second, the pattern of access. The late-night logins and the frequency of discretionary requests had not gone unnoticed. While nothing illegal has been alleged, the optics of continued informal access after Charles's succession have become uncomfortable for Prince of Wales, who is already thinking about the institution he will one day inherit. Third, and perhaps most important, the message. By acting so cleanly and so publicly within the closed world of the household, William is signaling that the era of shared or residual influence is over. The Duchy's private machinery now answers to him alone. Inside the households, the atmosphere is described as electric and uneasy. Staff who have worked across both the King's and the Prince of Wales's offices for years are choosing their words carefully. No one wants to be seen taking a side, yet everyone understands that a line has been drawn. Camilla's team is said to be in damage control mode. Attempts to reach Charles directly have produced only the expected holding responses. The King, according to those familiar with his current health and workload, is not in a position to reverse an operational decision made by the Prince of Wales regarding the Duchy. The Duchy is William's. That legal and practical reality is the foundation of everything that happened this morning. One former palace insider put it bluntly: you can argue about fairness. You can argue about family. You cannot argue about control. William has the control. Today he used it. The silence from Camilla's side in the first hours has been notable. No statement. No carefully worded denial. No attempt to reframe the decision as a temporary administrative measure. That silence, more than any leaked detail, has convinced people inside the system that the shock is real. What makes this moment different from previous internal power shifts is the speed and the finality. Royal financial arrangements usually change through slow negotiation, gradual restriction, or the quiet retirement of certain practices. They rarely change through the digital equivalent of changing the locks while someone is still holding the old keys. William did not ask for a meeting. He did not open a discussion. He executed. That style of decision-making is consistent with the way he has approached other parts of the modernization agenda. He prefers clean lines. He prefers clarity of authority, and he appears increasingly willing to accept the short-term discomfort that comes with enforcing those lines. For Camilla, the practical consequences will arrive quickly. Any expenditure that previously moved through those private channels will now require new approval routes. Any informal arrangements that relied on her residual access will need to be renegotiated or abandoned. The social and political capital that came from being able to facilitate or influence certain payments has been reduced overnight. For William, the consequences are different. He has demonstrated that he is prepared to act unilaterally on matters of financial control. That demonstration will be noticed far beyond the Duchy offices. It will be noticed in other households. It will be noticed by people who have grown used to operating in the gray spaces between formal authority and personal influence. There is another layer that has not yet been fully discussed in the initial wave of private reactions. The private accounts of the Duchy have, over the years, been used for more than routine household support. They have occasionally served as a quiet mechanism for resolving sensitive matters that the public accounts could not touch. The loss of access therefore removes not only financial flexibility but also a degree of operational independence. Whether that was part of William's calculation remains unclear. What is clear is that the decision was not taken lightly. The preparation that went into the simultaneous revocation of multiple access points suggests weeks, if not months, of quiet groundwork. The fact that it was executed so cleanly suggests that the legal and technical advice had already been secured. Camilla's frozen reaction in the first minutes may have been the purest expression of what the moment meant. For years she had navigated the complicated space between consort and independent actor. This morning that space narrowed dramatically. Staff who have spoken since the lockout describe a household that is suddenly very aware of who holds the real levers. Conversations that would once have been casual are now careful. Requests that would once have been informal are now formal. The atmosphere has changed because the underlying power structure has changed in a visible way. William has not issued any public comment, and none is expected. The Duchy's private financial arrangements are not matters for press releases. They are matters for internal authority. By handling the decision entirely inside that internal space, William has kept the story from becoming an immediate public scandal while still delivering a message that no one inside the system can miss. The message is simple. The private accounts answer to him. They no longer answer, even partially, to Camilla. That is a reality that settled over the household 4 minutes after the locks changed. To grasp the full weight of what happened, you need to look at the broader pattern of William's approach to the Duchy since he became Prince of Wales. From the beginning, he signaled that the estate would be run with greater commercial discipline and greater personal oversight. Environmental targets were tightened. Commercial partnerships were reviewed. Long-term strategy documents were rewritten. What looked like modernization on the surface was also a steady consolidation of control. The private accounts were the last significant area where residual influence from the previous generation remained. By cutting that influence, William has completed a process that has been underway for some time. The fact that he chose to do it so abruptly suggests that patience had run out, or that a specific set of circumstances made further delay unacceptable. Those circumstances are still being pieced together by people inside the system. Some point to the cumulative effect of repeated discretionary requests. Others point to a desire to draw a clean line before the next phase of public scrutiny of royal finances. Still others believe the decision is connected to longer-term planning for the transition that will one day come. Whatever the precise trigger, the result is the same. Camilla's access is gone. The accounts are now fully under William's operational control. And the household is adjusting, in real time, to the new reality. The hours that followed the lockout have been filled with quiet activity. Camilla's team has been reviewing every outstanding request that might be affected. William's team has been confirming that the technical changes have held. Senior figures who sit between the two households have been careful not to be drawn into commentary. One detail that has emerged is the completeness of the cut. It was not limited to the highest level authorizations. Secondary and tertiary access points were also closed. Viewing permissions that had been left in place for years were removed. The system was designed so that no residual pathway remained. That level of thoroughness is itself a statement. It says the decision was not symbolic. It was functional. The intention was to end the access, not merely to signal displeasure. Camilla's frozen response in the first minutes may give way to something else in the hours and days ahead. Whether that something else is acceptance, pushback through other channels, or more private reckoning remains to be seen. What cannot be undone is the fact of the revocation itself. The private accounts of the Duchy are no longer shared territory. They are William's territory. And as of this morning, everyone inside the system knows it. The hours after the lockout have revealed more than the initial shock. What began as a technical revocation has become a clear statement about the future shape of the royal household. William did not simply remove access. He removed the assumption that influence could outlast formal authority. Inside Camilla's private office, the practical fallout arrived quickly. Outstanding requests that had been moving through discretionary channels were returned with a single line. All matters relating to Duchy private funds are now directed exclusively through the Prince of Wales's office. No exceptions. No transitional period. The message was consistent with the method. Clean, final, and without room for negotiation. Those close to Camilla describe a woman who has spent decades mastering the art of quiet endurance. She has survived public hostility, media storms, and the slow transformation from outsider to queen consort. Yet this particular cut appears to have landed differently. It was not a public attack that could be weathered with dignity and time. It was an internal removal of a tool she had come to rely on. The frozen stillness of the first minutes has, according to one source, given way to a colder, more calculated silence. She has not issued any private protest that has reached William's team. She has not attempted to reopen the accounts through Charles. She has simply absorbed a new boundary. That absorption itself is significant. In the closed world of the monarchy, the decision not to fight in the open often signals recognition that the ground has permanently shifted. William's action also sends a message beyond Camilla. Other senior figures who have grown used to informal arrangements now understand that the Prince of Wales is prepared to enforce hard lines. The Duchy has always been more than an income stream. It has been a reservoir of quiet capacity. By placing that capacity under exclusive personal control, William has reduced the number of people who can move money without his knowledge. In an institution where information is power, that reduction matters. Charles's position remains carefully distant. The king retains formal authority over the wider royal household, but the Duchy of Cornwall belongs to the Prince of Wales. That legal reality has always limited how far any intervention could go. Sources familiar with the current atmosphere around the king say he was informed after the fact and offered no public or private contradiction. Whether that silence reflects agreement, exhaustion, or simple recognition of the constitutional position is not yet clear. What is clear is that the decision stands. The longer-term implications are already being discussed in low voices. A monarchy that once operated through layered and sometimes overlapping spheres of influence is being reshaped into something more vertical. William appears determined to inherit an institution in which authority is concentrated and residual power bases have been dismantled. The private accounts were one of the last soft edges. They are soft no longer. The frozen moment has passed. What remains is a new reality, access denied, control consolidated, and the quiet machinery of royal power realigned in a single decisive stroke. If this developing story matters to you, stay with this channel. The next updates will come as further details surface from inside the household. Like the video if you want these reports to keep reaching you first. Subscribe and turn on the bell so you do not miss what follows. And tell me in the comments what you believe this move truly signals about the future of the crown. The locks have changed. The accounts are closed. And the balance of power inside the monarchy has shifted in plain sight of those who know where to look.